what's me? How's it hanging? How's it happen? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. The podcast one some magazine describes as the one that initiates profound discussions with rock and metal artists, allowing fans to discover the creative workflow of the famed musicians and understand the factors that make the band succeed or fall from fame. We are also sponsored by Dark Fusion Systems, the best for your custom computing needs. Get $100 off your entire business code CPPOD at darkfusionsystems.com. Link to the podcast below. Let's go to our feature presentation. For 25 years, this band has been in metalcore brutality, and they're coming out with a brand new album on Valentine's Day. Who are we talking about? We're talking about Bleeding Through. Brandan is with us today with their brand new album 9 coming out on Valentine's Day. We not only talk about the comeback the band has had since 2018. Yes, you know, COVID hit and how this album was created, the darker tone this album takes on, and why that is such an important thing for so many of us to listen to, get into, because of how that, it's like, what do we call it? Negative positivity. I can't remember how we call it, but it was a great concept of how things that are perceived as dangerous, things seen as negative, can actually be turned into a positive thing, like metal music, mosh pits, and the like. You guys ready? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. You know, here in the podcast, we love music that goes hard, that's heavy, and that will likely make me go absolutely buck wild in a mosh pit. And this is definitely where it comes through, with a stalwart of that metalcore scene, taking influences from no holds barred hardcore, cutthroat thrash, cinematic black metal. So why wouldn't you want to get into these guys? And if you haven't already been into them, this is the way to do it right now. They have got a brand new album called The 9 coming out on February 14th. Yep. And this is after 25 years as a band. They're coming out with another album, their first since 2018. And let me tell you, if this doesn't make you want to go start swinging, having fun in a mosh pit, I don't know what will, but let's go talk all about. So please welcome Brandan from the band Bleeding Through the podcast. So Brandan, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on, man.
Yeah, dude. Congratulations on your podcast. Keep it going, man. The more of these that this is the life's blood of like music right now. You know what I mean? Just like having conversation, have people take time out to actually find out what bands are, you know, into, you know, ask questions, and you know what I mean? This type of thing just needs to be out there, so the information, so people get to know the bands and know the questions they want to answer.
See, that's one thing I've always been kind of focused on with this is I've listened to many podcasts before I started this, and it's like they all ask the same questions over and over again. I'm like, I just want to ask whatever I want to ask, because there's probably someone that wants to ask the same thing. And I started doing that, 6 years ago. And by the time this episode comes out, I'm looking at the number of episodes it'll be, episode 593. So
that's crazy.
This just keeps going and keeps rolling, man. But thank you. I really appreciate it.
You bet.
So just how's life been going for you recently? How are things been, especially in the lead up to another release, your first release since 2018?
Yeah, things are good, man. Like, I mean, really, like we just the last like 3-ish years, we've been touring, not touring, but playing as many shows as we can. I mean, being a band that's been around for like 25 years, it definitely gets increasingly harder to separate from like other things in your life that you have, like major commitments in life to do this band. But we do such a great job with it, and it makes us just appreciate the opportunity to keep doing this, keep traveling like the world, hanging out with people, sharing this music in front of people, and even just getting to write this new material and putting a full length together this deep into a career. It's pretty crazy, man. Like, it takes a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice, just like as it always has. But I think that this record to us means a little bit more, because it's just to capture the essence of what your band is and keep that essence kind of going and growing after like that long. Like it's kind of it's you never know if it's going to get done. I've listened to a lot of bands that have been together for a long time, and almost like new records don't do it for me anymore. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I never wanted that to happen for this band. So for us, I don't think that's happened. I think that this record, like as a record for us in the band, I think we could probably unified say it's our favorite. And, you know, and actually really mean it, not just say it to try to get people to listen to it. It's like, whether you like it or not, like it's still going to be our favorite record, you know? So I just think we're really proud. We're really proud at the moment. we feel good. I mean, the Bleeding Through brand is something that we worked really hard for and are really proud of. And the fact that we still get to go out there and like wave that banner and be proud of something like that, it's really cool.
That's something that you really get to hang your hat on and just, wear as a badge of honor in the end. When we take a look at all the bands that have been around, and I'm talking about throughout history. So
Yeah.
the amount of bands that never really made it out of the local scene, the amount of bands that could have made it big, but just didn't for one reason or another. It is almost impossible to have a band that not only reaches it and actually makes it a continuous thing for themselves and has, able to make a living off it, but to do it for so long and so continuously. Yeah. So the fact that you guys have been doing this, especially as Bleeding Through, since around 1999 and have 9 albums now to show for it with the release of 9, it just stands to say that, you guys have something to say. You guys have a sound that people love to listen to and connect with. Beyond that, though, there's a continuous evolution into the band where over the course of 25 years, you're going to change. Everything around you going to change. Your mindset's going to change because 25 years, you're not the same person you were 25 years ago. Heck, If I looked at the same person that I was 25 years ago, I'd still be, wondering when school was going to start and if I was going to be able to watch SpongeBob before going to kindergarten. Like, that's 25 years ago. For you, might be different, though. You have different responsibilities. Maybe wife comes in the picture, significant other, kids come into the picture, and that happens with everyone else around the band as well. So continuing to still have that passion for music and still be able to come up with something that you did with 9, I mean, that stands to say that this is something that stands the test of time and definitely has what Bleeding Through is in its purest form after being able to focus on this and really take everything in that has happened not only to yourselves musically, but also around the world since Love Will Kill All came out in 2018.
I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like, after Love Will Kill All came out, that we had some momentum, then COVID and all that stuff, just the world changed. Mm-hmm. And, it was a tragedy on a lot of levels. And one of the greatest tragedies is it took what people loved away from them. You know what I mean? And that thing that it took from, like, I know for myself, was the music and being able to play, because we just started like playing again. And like, but dude, it was just, you know what I mean? Like, but to put it in perspective, that's just like a low penalty considering what some people lost, like lives of their family members, and things were just horrible. But one thing that did, though, like through that time, like, and I think the reason why maybe we see it maybe a little bit differently now and why we still kind of have that passion, is because coming back off COVID, it was like, you do realize you take these things for granted, like these things that you love. And like, but what a great thing that we still get to be part of this community and be part of like the heavy music community and have something like this to turn to. And no matter like how dark times get, you have this music, which is just incredible. And so, and it's like, we realized that after COVID. And that's why I feel like we really wanted to go back to what was true for ourselves with this new record and really go back to like the feelings of why you start playing this fucking music and what brings this type of music out in you. And I know I can speak for myself, like in 1999, I was a different person. I was a total fucking dork, but it was like one of these things where like one of the things inside of me, like I connected to a darkness. Like there was just something dark with my emotions and my sort of like the things that like attracted me. And, with Bleeding Through, that was the one thing that I was a part of that I could let my kind of darkness come out. You know what I mean? And I feel like we've maintained that through our career, but this new record, when we started putting these songs together, like I just really like honed in on what it meant to me when I was 19 years old and letting that part of my life out into the world of that just like dark emotion. And I still feel it. And that's like what came out in me. So I'm like a different person now, but that has remained the same. And that's why I feel like if you do, like when people do hear this record, it's fucking dark, man. Like every song is kind of different on the record from the other song, but the overall vibe is the same. And so it unifies these songs and it almost goes on like a journey. But like the fucking vibe is just dark. Like overall, the overall vibe, it's like a dark rain cloud like following you on the street. That's what the new Bleeding Through is.
But especially after everything that had happened since 2018, I mean, of course, looking at what happened in the world, the pandemic, and having the music completely basically stop at that point in time. Yeah. Yes, I know it's not the greatest loss compared to what a lot of other people had gone through, but everyone lost something during that time period. And for
it's
a lot of
people, fucking loss.
Yeah. And not only for people that make music, but people that love music like myself, we lost a lot of that. And we lost that ability to come together as a community and really enjoy this. So when it came back, it was great to be able to get back into it. And looking at the darkness that really is overarching in the overall themes and the overall sound that's behind Nine, it's something that makes sense to put into it. And there's a lot of bands that also really not only focus on the dark, so they focus on the lightness, but you need to have the times where you focus on those dark feelings because they are legitimate. They're real. They are in your life. They're not going to go away every single time. And you're never going to be someone that's going to be happy 24/7. It's just impossible to do that. However, the reason why I believe a lot of people, especially myself, is we get into heavy music like this and really then focus in on it much more is because when we find the darkness and those feelings like you did back when you were 19 or for me when I was like 22, it just takes you over and you're trying to find a way to either, have a way to explain that to yourself or to relate to it. Or in my aspect too was find a way to take that darkness and use those feelings and not shy away from, but find a way where you can turn it into a positive. And heavy music does that, whether you're writing it and letting it out into the world and having that sort of therapy session to process your emotions through an art form that is music or song. Yeah. For someone like myself, it's being able to, relate to that and then go to these shows, let kind of all of that out in a much more positive way, going to the pit mosh and having a good time. By the end of it, you're still able to relate to those darker moments. You're able to process through those, but you're able to put a more positive twist on them in the end. So you're not shying away from them, but you're able to take that emotion and make it a lot better for not only yourself, but to positively impact the people that are around you.
Totally. It's like, I call it negatively positive, man.
Negatively positive is a great way to describe that. I went on like a 2.5 minute rant. And you're like, 2 words. That's all I need.
Yeah, man. Like sometimes exercising your fucking self, it's like if you go to like one of our shows or like a hardcore show, like for anybody that has no idea, like and seeing like the pit, they're just like, why are people fighting, right? You could just sum this up by a fucking pit at a show. Why are people fighting? They're not fighting. They're just expressing themselves, right? But how are they not fighting? They're like hitting each other in the fucking face. No, they're not fighting. And then afterwards, it's like everyone's friends, like high-fiving shit. That's negatively positive. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like throwing punches is always going to be pretty negative. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I guess we could just summarize it by that. We're summarizing life by a mosh pit.
Yeah, it's a very similar nature, too, for people that you're doing like mixed martial arts, MMA, kickboxing, anything like that, where you're sparring against somebody else, especially in like more of a practice setting. Yeah, you're hitting each other, you're punching each other, you're kicking each other, and you're trying to do these things that are definitely more of a negative space, a negative outlook. But the space that it's being created and the moment that is there is a positive that's going to turn that negative into a positive outcome. So again, that's something that people that might not necessarily be able to relate to heavy music in a mosh pit can take a look and say, okay, now that at least makes some sort of sense. And then you can relate it to when you go and see a metal show or a hardcore show where people are swinging, throwing punches and someone gets hit in the face. And you wonder why 3 seconds later, the person that just got hit in the face is being picked up by the person that hit them in the face and they're hugging it out.
Yeah, totally. That's fucking right.
It's one of the most beautiful things in the world and one of the most euphoric things in the world too. And the fact that you guys are able to not only continue to deliver on this after 25 years, but deliver this musically throughout Nine is again an incredible piece.
Thank you, man. I mean, we're really proud of this record. I mean, like that's why we've been asked like why are we like call the record 9, and honestly, it's like, yeah, it's our 9th full length. And people are like, but why 9? And there's 2 answers. It's kind of like, 1, the word looks cool when it's written out, which matters. Okay. 2, and the most important, and it's probably 99.9% of the reason, is because, like what was kind of for mentioning, it's like 25 years and to still write a record like this. Now, I'm not saying this is like, yes, what I'm about to say is going to come off cocky. I think this record is so fucking good that I want it to be stamped in time with 9. And I mean, I'll call my shot and say that this is bleeding through in 25 years on this record. And it's like, it doesn't hold anything back. It is, I think, all the elements that made us just perfected in a way and freed. Not perfected, like I say, I'll say freed to do what we wanted to do. And that was everybody's input being into it. And everybody shines through on this record so much. And it feels for the first time like the full band coming together. It's like fucking, I don't know, like Voltron, like pieces of Voltron make Voltron. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like, to me, this record is like the first time that's ever happened. That's why I like want the record to be called 9. And also it's like, you know, after being a band that long, you put out records that people don't even listen to because they're like, oh, it's whatever, it's probably going to suck. And I understand. I listen to a lot of like bands that come back or whatever, keep going, that keep releasing records where I'm like, fuck, I'd rather you not release anything. Like, let's just live in your past because you're right now is just not good. And I never wanted to be that type of band ever. So it's like, we put a lot of ourselves into this record, and we're very proud of it. And we're very proud of it in the fact for people that have been supporting us for so long too. Like, you know, we've had like fans that have been around forever, and like they continue to just be our life's blood. Like, this fucking record is for them. This record is for them, for like fans of, or so their friends who might not like Bleeding Through and might give them shit for listening to Bleeding Through or whatever the fuck, that they could be like, yeah, well, like, this is their new fucking record. Your band, your fucking bands that you like are now trash. You know what I mean? Like, yes, this is for our fucking people, straight up.
Yeah, and I don't think you're necessarily wrong in saying that either, because I know people aren't going to want to admit it, especially if it's bands they like, but as time goes on, there are bands that, you know, it's like they release music and it's just like, this is the same thing over and over again. And You're less likely to listen to it, because why listen to a rehashed over and over again album when I can go back to the original sound that it had on back maybe like, say, 2006, 2007, maybe back to the 90s even, and listen to that, because not only does it still sound like it was, but this is something that has much more of a positive connotation and positive reflection in my own brain, because I remember when it came out, I remember everything that's tied to it. If it's the same thing over and over again, the impact is not going to be there. And new fans are just going to be like, okay, why would we listen to this? Old fans are going to be like, we're just going to go back to the old stuff. And it just keeps going on and on. But as an artist, and I love the fact that you called your shot too, because if you're not absolutely pumped up for a record, if you're not absolutely positive on it, and you're not going to be cocky about it and, you know, show that energy, where are people that not only have been fans of the band for so long, but also people that are just checking out the band for the first time, going to be able to get into it if they're not going to be able to follow that energy? If it's a downer or new. Yeah.
What are you supposed to say? Like, oh, how do you guys think your record's going to be good? Yeah, it's going to be all right. You know, I think it's pretty good. Fuck no. Like, but like, this one is a feeling. Like, I feel it when it's this record. Like, and people that have heard the whole record, it's like they're getting it, which is good.
Yeah, because you listen to it, it's heavy, it's dark, and it's going to hit you in the face many different ways, and you're not going to expect the ways that it's going to absolutely smash you in the face, but that's the way you need it to be. You need to have that way where it's, you know, you're going to have that sound, especially that you want to put out there, and it's going to have a lot of different pieces that reflect back on your previous work, because that is a part of you. But as time goes on and you have those little other influences come in, you want to try new things after, of course, 25 years. You're not going to be doing the same thing for 25 straight years unless it's the perfect thing, or if you're the most lazy person in the world. But you put that out there and people are going to be able to, you know, connect with it. be impacted by it and have that fresh feeling that they're absolutely craving.
Dude, perfection or laziness. That's great. I feel like a lot of bands can use that as the title of their new record. Perfection or laziness? Question mark.
I mean, I wish I was a lot more musically inclined instead of being able to be inclined to talk about music, because then I would start a band and then have a third album come out that would be Perfection or Laziness. Just to see what
change?
people
we do what we do so well. We don't need to do anything different.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Maybe it'll be a band that's been around since like the 70s or 80s. It's like we're coming out with a new record and that's what comes out. Or shoot,
like
I might.
AC/DC.
Yeah,
AC/DC's been writing the same record for fucking 50 years now. Perfection or laziness? I don't know. Could be both.
To be fair, it worked for them in the 70s and 80s for sure. Or it's like if the Rolling Stones decided to come out with a record in 2025, that would be the perfect title for it, because there's so many people that love that sound that still connect with it. But if you listen to anything they've released since like 1982, I can't name you a song they've released since Start Me Up. Like, I can't do it.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
So I know we talked about, when it comes to 9, the darker tones to it and the overall idea behind it. But when it came to actually creating this record on a sonic perspective and working together with everybody, what was that whole process like, especially coming back to a post-COVID with everyone trying to get that rejuvenated feel going once again to create something that is now 9?
Yeah, I mean, like after COVID or during COVID, we started working on some material. And then we worked on it with the producer McKinney, who we did like Level Kill All and The Great Fire, and I've worked with some projects with him with a bunch of things. We stopped working together, and we were kind of like out in like limbo. We're like, who the hell do we get to like kind of work with? Like, we wanted to just do better when it came to our sound and kind of see if we could find someone else to kind of lend like some fresh ears towards it. And then we came across Aaron Shaparian, who like works for Iron Audio. He did the re-recordings of Love Lost Nail of Gunfire and On Wings of Lead that we did in like 2023. And we liked it so much. We're like, dude, like, would you do our next full length? And he was like super pumped to be a producer. And, he just kind of, I feel like he just captured that like vibe. He knew exactly what we were going with. And it sounds weird, but I won't work with anybody that does not know who Bleeding Through is, like or does not know isn't familiar with something, because I want someone to know what the history of this band is. And Aaron is one of those people, and I felt like it was perfect. And so, we all recorded, like, we didn't have a lot of time to like practice together ever. Like we get together for rehearsals before we like do like weekend shows or whatever the hell we're playing. And so a lot of this was done individually. Like, we each kind of like had a few songs that we wrote. Marta composed a lot more on this record. Her keyboards are fucking great all over the place. Her voice is great. She sang a lot more. Like, I think everybody kind of being like a little bit separated, but also working on this record and kind of funneling to the same area. Like, it's like producer right here. We just started funneling in from different areas. I think it added a lot of individualism on the record, but I feel like everybody got to really shine on like what they wanted to bring to the record. And we just figured out a way to like use it all and still maintain like our sound. You know what I mean? Incorporate elements, but have it be very Bleeding Through. So although it wasn't my favorite way to record a record of like just kind of being all separated and like file sharing, basically, it was effective. And I think it came out really dark because of that,
I can understand where maybe it would come out a little bit more darker just because of that recording process. When you're not all together and you're not feeding off each other's energy, there always is going to be that slight bit of like anger and dissatisfied feelings because you're not doing it with everybody. You're not in that family setting. You're just kind of sharing stuff back and forth, essentially COVID period style when it came to creating music, which is we
definitely did a COVID record. Post-COVID
COVID record, which is definitely a struggle, but I can understand where even doing that allows for the songs to have a little bit more of that darker embedded feeling just based on where the mindset was. And when you said you wanted to work with a producer that knows who Bleeding Through is and knows the progression of the band's history, when you've been around for 25 years, that's a luxury that you can have and something that is absolutely, I would say, paramount, because if you have someone that is producing the music that knows who the band is, knows the journey of each and every individual album, they're able to have a little bit more of that embedded knowledge of how things have progressed, where you guys are, and how the music is all interplaying with each other. So when it comes to trying to maximize out on your ideas, maximize your sound, and maybe making suggestions on what could make it better, there's an investment that's already there. Now, all the younger bands out there, if you're on your first or second album, that's probably not something you can do, because you haven't gone through that journey yet. You haven't gone through that sonic discovery yet of even who you are as time goes on. You will get to that point if you continue, but you won't be able to make that call on a producer that needs to know who the band is until you get much later in your career. But I love the fact that you did that, and it just makes sense and stands out to the point where it allows so much more creativity, but understood creativity between you and your producer.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we are very a fortunate position to have the luxury to be able to do that. But one of the reasons we did that too is because we don't want to be changed. You know what I mean? Like, we've worked with producers before where it was just like, all right, let's change your sound. And we've met with people and like, that's not what we're about. We're good with our sound. Like, we want to progress. Like, so we just need somebody to push us to progress our sound, not change our sound. Like, we never want anybody to come back, all right, guys, well, this song's going to be like more of like a radio hit. It's like, we don't do those. Mm-hmm. We're good being Bleeding Through, man. Let everybody else do those things. You know, like, fuck it.
Well, because where has anybody gotten by just trying to be like everybody else? There's all the bands that have gotten to be like the biggest bands that you've known throughout time. Again, the Beatles, Rolling Stones, Metallica, Linkin Park. I'm just throwing out names of bands that, everyone would easily know. They're bands that when they started out, it was they had their own sound, or they were working on something that was completely unique to themselves. And that's where people really got into it. It was not only new and fresh, but it was something that was authentic and didn't have a feeling like they were trying to copy everybody else. And as time goes on, there are a lot of people out there that want to hop on trends because it is the easy thing to do. But the bands that don't do it the easy way when it comes to creating their sound and crafting what is truly in their core, those are the ones that end up becoming your headliners at these major festivals, the ones that become your legacy bands that last the test of time.
Yeah, like I bring up Avenged Sevenfold all the time. Mm-hmm. Like, they're from our area. Like, we've been friends with them forever. Like, I'm at my gym right now. Matt's literally working out in my gym right now, and like, we've been family, But they did what they did, and people were like, "Oh, they got lucky," and they weren't trying. No, motherfucker, they wanted to be a big motherfucking band from day one. That was their goal. And then around here, everybody just started trying to like, almost like take their blueprint of like, okay, we just got to do this and we could be the next radio band. You know what I mean? And I looked at it from afar and being like, that's a mistake for everybody else. Like, they have their thing and it's their thing, and it doesn't include any of you people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do your own thing and do your own path. Like, don't just try to follow like the footsteps of it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's like true. It's like, bands that are themselves and just follow that kind of that blueprint, their own blueprint, like, those are the bands that become historic. You know what I mean? Like those are the bands that get rewarded for being bold and being themselves,
Absolutely. And you're seeing that now in heavy music as well. I mean, like a band like Bring Me the Horizon's a great example of that have gone all over the place because that's what they wanted to do.
They just wanted to do that.
Yeah. And then even take a look at some of the bands that are popping off, especially in the more popular in the metal side recently. Bad Omens, when they came out with Death of Peace of Mind, they kind of did a similar thing that Bring the Horizon, but they took it in a completely different direction because that's where they wanted to go. And it made them the massive hits they are today and continuing to grow. 2023 and Sleep Token, with their incredibly different, weird sound, hit with so many different people, where they're going to be headlining Download Fest in 2025. Take a look at 2020. Take a look at 2024 as well. Who would have thought that the breakout band of 2024 would be a hardcore band? Going from a band that would normally maybe play at the most in front of 1,000 people like 2 years ago to a band that's playing in front of like 3,000-4,000 plus a night as a hardcore band with Knocked Loose, because their sound is different than what everybody else is doing in that genre, in that style, and people are connecting with it in a completely different way. So in 2025, are we going to see another band that does something like that, where they're going to have a completely unique sound? They're going to take in their own direction and be the band that blows up as the band of the year? Yeah, most likely we are definitely going to see that. And we're going to see a lot of bands that try and copycat Bad Omens out. We have, or Sleep Token, or Knocked Loose. And they may get some notoriety, but you're never going to get that level of like transcendent success if you're trying to copy what everybody else is doing.
True. I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Oh, I'm all in about that too. And I'm glad that when it comes to what you guys have done, especially not only throughout the course of your cruise, but with 9, you guys decided to not relent on who you guys were, but at the same time, try to see how your sound could progress and how you could add to it, because you take a look at the singles that you have out by the recording of this episode, which has been Dead But So Alive, Path of Our Disease, and I Am Resistance. Each one definitely has that core that represents what Bleeding Through is. It has the heaviness to it. It has the aggression behind it. But every single song, there's a different piece, especially in the singles. There's a different piece that leads into that is influenced by it, that creates a uniqueness behind it, but also adds so much to the dark aesthetic of the tone and of the messaging of this album. It makes sense to say that this is how you progress a sound, and this is how you build up and continue to not only make yourselves happy, but continue to surprise yourself and the fans 25 years into the future.
Yeah, man. I mean, I just like I said, I just can't wait for people to hear this record. It's really going to take you on like almost like the Bleeding Through musical journey. It really is. It's like it's all of our influences. It's us paying homage to like where we come from. A lot of sounds that are like kind of like known for like where we're from and like what got us into playing this type of music. We have some cool fucking friends sing on the records. On a couple songs, we have a friend do a fucking guest guitar solo. Like, it's just a cool fucking celebration of like where we're at 25 years into being in this band. Yeah, like just I can't wait for people to dive in. You're gonna hear parts where you're like, what the fuck? But you're gonna like, okay, that makes total sense, you know?
Oh, it absolutely did. And I'm going to go back to the single specifically on this because I think it encapsulates it perfectly, where just going through each one, when I heard I Am the Resistance, right when it opened up, it definitely had this feeling of, you know, a heavier side of things, but it used more of this like epic gothic tale telling, like a medieval chorus. Not necessarily having the chorus in there, but it had the feeling of that. And every time you hear that, you get this connotation of a darker, but also more grand and epic way of showing something. So you're going to get that big reveal. Path of Our Disease, it kind of had an idea behind that, but just the way that it opens up, where you have Marta's vocals in there as well, and the pounding behind it, it creates this feeling of like an epic movie that's telling like a war tale from ancient history. So you're feeling that grandness, you're feeling the epicness of it. And it could also be something that's more triumphant, more dark, but you're not letting on which way it's going to go. You're going to put it forcefully in there. Or on my favorite singles, Dead But So Alive, just from the way it begins, the way it crescendos into it, it's a faster manner, and it has this feeling that it's possibly a little bit of like a deathcore realm, but it just progresses so much faster, where you're wondering when this is going to come back to a Bleeding Through song, and it absolutely does, but it's such a slow burn off of that deathcore sound to the chorus, then you jump right back into it. It just makes sense. It just feels that deeper, darker tone, while you're messing with different programming ideas, different ways to express that, or different heaviness and pacing to show that all off in a much more unique way.
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, Dead But So Alive, I think, is the one song on the record where if you listen to one song, that encapsulates pretty much everything that we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I even I'm looking at my notes that I put down for the song. After like I wrote down what my thoughts for the chorus was, I said it just works very well and creates an all-encompassing song that the band can be absolutely proud of. So I think when you said that this is the one to check out, if you're going to check out just one, that's the one I was going to pick too. Song,
like when I start playing, you know, like you meet a whole bunch of different people in life that have no idea who you are. So like even in like my gym, most of my clients, when they sign up with me, they don't even know about Bleeding Through at all. So it's like when they find out, they're like, oh, let me hear something. So if you're going to pick one song to like let them hear it, that's the song I'm going to play. I just think that's probably the one that I think represents us the best.
Well, shoot, if I was around your area and I was, going to the gym, and if all of a sudden I walk in and I'm hearing Bleeding Through playing a bunch of heavy music, I'm probably going to actually leave my earbuds in the car or leave my earbuds at home because I don't need it. I've got it right here.
Nobody listens to earbuds in our gym, dude.
Oh, yeah. Man, I kind of wish that was the case in the gym I go to, but that's definitely not the case. I got to keep the earbuds in to refrain from listening to like people working out to, 1970s disco or Billy Joel or AC/DC. Yeah. I'm like, I got to lift this. This is heavy. I need something that's actually heavy to listen to it, or just absolutely manic and off the wall.
Yeah, totally.
So shoot, if I'm ever out in the, Southern California area and I need to look for a gym, I'm be like, okay, I know where I got to go. I got to go find the Bleeding Through gym.
I'm thinking right now, let me see what we're listening to. Acacia Strain.
Okay, how can you say no to lifting the Acacia Strain? Like that just stands out of, you're going to be lifting something heavy.
It basically lifts the weight for you.
That's like PR music right there. That's going to get you a personal record right there.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon, one thing I love to ask artists, especially when they have new music coming out, is this kind of a question. And I would always ask, what song is your favorite on the record? But that's like picking your favorite kid. That's not something that you want to do because you're going to love so many of these songs. But I like taking a little bit of a different twist. So at the moment of recording, we have 3 singles out again: Dead But So Alive, Path of Our Disease, and I Am Resistance. Yeah. Now, there are 8 other songs that have yet to be released. I'm not going to ask you which one is your favorite. I will ask.
There's 2 songs that have been released.
There's 2. Okay.
There was Our Brand Is Chaos. We released it last May or last March. That's on the record. Okay. And then we re-recorded Wartime, and that's on the new record too. Oh shit! I don't know if I should have said that, but yeah. Whatever, fuck it.
Well, you can go online if you can look at like Spotify, Apple Music, and you can see the track list. So it's already out there. But my question is going to be this then: out of the songs that have not been released yet, or Wartime because it's re-recorded, so now we're at 6. Out of those other 6 songs, which is the one song that you are most excited for people to check out?
Gallows for sure. The first song on the record. Like, if you want to know like what this record is going to be like, just that song tells you everything you need to know. And it just has a chorus that I recorded my vocals with Tim Lambesis down in Carlsbad, California. And when I was recording that part, him and John Arnold from Bleeding Through, like our guitar player, I record the chorus part, the singing part, and they both look at me and they go, "We don't know about that." I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "That's just like, I don't know. It's like spooky, but like not in a usual way for your band." And I'm like, "Okay, fine." I'm like, "Give me like 3 more fucking recordings of it. Let me layer it up a little bit, and then you tell me." And so that's what I did. And then they heard it and they're just like, "Dude, that's like, it's like a haunting chorus." It's like you feel like if this record is all about what you feel, like even the cover of the record, like when you look at it, you think about something. It makes you feel something. Gallows makes you feel something, and if it just as soon as that first chorus hits, you're just like, it gives you like chicken skin, dude, and like it's just really, it hits you deep. So I can't wait. That's the song I'm like, I cannot wait.
I'm glad that's just like when people check out the album, that's the first song they're going to hear on the full album run through, because especially with the haunting way that chorus hits, but the heaviness that is around that whole entire track. Looking at the album artwork too, it fully encapsulates it because you see there's like a house on fire and just kind of a field, and everything in front of it looks like it's in a burnt shadow. It stands out to have that heaviness and that aggression around a darker mindset. but just the fact that like the bottom right corner just looks all black, and then as you go to the upper left-hand corner is just a complete void of darkness. That's where that spookiness comes in. That's where that horror movie feel comes in. So you need that heavy kind of haunting feel to really encapsulate it. And if people are even looking at the album artwork when they're listening to Gallows, honestly, it's a hit.
The artwork makes you feel it's kind of a reflection. The whole record is kind of like a reflection in like my struggles with mental illness and being bipolar and just having some crazy things go on in my life. But everybody has like, everybody deals with some sort of like mental trigger, mental setback. It's just a daily battle for people to work through their issues. Just keep fighting that battle. Just please do that. But the cover, it's like walking through life. Like you could choose this way and you could choose that way. And it's like so simple. But that choice alone for people is isolating. And when you look at the cover, I think it makes you feel like isolated almost. And it like, it just makes you feel something. And then once you start looking at it more, you can get it. Okay, that's what this means. This is like the journey between like good and evil right here.
That's honestly a great way to describe it. The path in life that splits off, you have to make a choice. It's easy because it's one or the other, but it's so isolating. And then your mind puts so many other aspects into it where it becomes the most daunting choice of your life. And the album artwork, again, it feels like if you choose one way, you're choosing like nothing. You're choosing just a dark, desolate place.
Yeah.
Or you choose the other way, and it looks like there's a little more color to it, but there's a house burning down, so you're not sure exactly if you're going to be able to get through something like that or not. It's a very scary thing to have to pick in life, one path or the other that you could go on, but it's a choice that has to be made. And as long as you make that choice, you keep your head up and make it with confidence. Even if you're not confident in it, going into it and having that, I still got this mentality, you'd be surprised how far along that'll take you.
Yeah, amen to that, dude.
Absolutely. Well, Brandon, I know we're running a long time because you're doing plenty of interviews today, and I want to make sure you get to your next one. But there is one other question I want to ask you before I wrap this up. This is a question I've been asking for over a year and a half to every artist I bring on the podcast as a way for us as listeners to get to know more great new music that's out there, and for you as an artist to get to promote the music that you love and bands that you love to see and want to see get bigger. So I'm going to ask you for 3 of these. Can you name me 3 bands or artists that you love that you would love to see more people get into right now?
There's a band called Mugshot that I really like. Good dudes. I just saw them last Friday. Fuck, man, they're very exciting live, very professional. Their music just has groove. It has just some chaos to it. It's heavy as fuck. Go check out Mugshot. Like, I listen to a lot of like atmospheric, more like black metal stuff. So like the band's called Patriarch now, but they used to be called Batuska. It's like chanty black metal. It sounds weird and shit, but it's fucking awesome. I love that band. If you're into like just like a vibe. And then what else am I listening to right now that I'm kind of digging? I think the 156 Silence record is really good. The new record that just came out. Again, it's like that's a vibe record. There's a lot of stuff out right now that I personally feel like sounds like exactly the fucking same. And like it's heavy without sounding like everybody else. You know what I mean? It's like it has its own unique vibe. So yeah, those 3 bands right now, like that's the kind of shit I'm like jamming on right now.
So those are some good picks. I had the pleasure of interviewing Jack from 156 Sounds right before that album came out. And I listened, I was just like, I even thought to myself, this is heavy in a different kind of heavy way. And I hope to God people realize that. And by the end of 2024, anyone in metal was realizing that 156 Sounds is one hell of a band. Yeah,
they're great. And they're definitely making some things happen, man. It's cool.
Oh, they absolutely are. And we're going to make sure that Bleeding Through keeps making things happen. So everyone, please go and check out 9 when it releases on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2025. So if you're feeling the love, if you're not feeling the love, you need to be feeling the love, and you want to feel it in the heaviest way possible and embrace, maybe the darkness that's around there, but also come through it in a positive light. Bleeding Through, 9. That's the album for you for your Valentine's Day.
Take care, guys.
And now it's time for me to end this podcast with 3 things. So first things first, once again, 9, February 14th. Any way you want to find Bleeding Through, get to know them, find out when they're going to be going on tour near you, and be in the know with them. Description of the podcast will say find Bleeding Through online. Links, labels are all going to be down there for you. So I'm taking all the hard work onto this. All you have to do is go down, click your favorite link, follow along with the band, and make sure you listen to the album when it comes out. Now it's time for number 2, Brandon. Whatever guest in the podcast, I enjoy the podcast. I have a way I like to say thank you, and I wish to continue to support you in the future. So I always make a promise, and you absolutely hit on this. So my promise to you is this. It's not an if. It is a when I get to see the band perform live for the first time. Now, I may be sweaty as all hell. I may be beat up in the mosh pit, but I'll be having a huge smile on my face at the end of this. But at some point in time during that show, I will come and find you. I will come and say hi. But the promise is, whatever it is, first round's on me.
Go. You bet. I'll take you up on that.
Yes. Now it's time for number 3. Brandon, I can end this podcast by saying goodbye. I love the conversation. I made you a promise, and I would love to have you back on again in the future. Hopefully it's not another record in another 7 years, but hopefully it's sooner than that.
Yes. We won't be System of a Down with our next record.
Awesome. So this cannot be goodbye, my friend. This is, I'll see you later.
Take care, man.
Well, folks, I'm ending with Brandon from the band Bleeding Through. Now it's time for Kevin's final thought. The darkness that is on this album. The absolute depth that Brandon ends up going into. And the sonic choice of this ends up bringing forward that negativity, that brutality in the most positive manner. Now, again, what do we mean by that? I mean, we were talking about this, and we were talking about bringing forward a lot of those negative emotions, those darker emotions. They can end up being a huge positive momentum swing as well, because now you're bringing them to light. Now you're actually facing them, but you can turn them into the most positive thing. I mean, he was talking about how he was feeling so many of these negative things, especially even starting out the band, these darker topics, and then going into 9, how some of those are still there, but how creating music and being around that have allowed him to do so much more with this and have an absolute positive outlook on life and actually turn negative thoughts into a positive reaction. I've done the same thing too with my love for music. I mean, I've gone through a bunch of, things that have been negative to myself as well. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I've had a pretty good life up to this point, but, we all go through those things that are negative, and I've been able to take those negative emotions and find a way to not only process through them, but turn them into something that is positive. Negative emotions cause me to go to concerts and get into metal music, cause me to go into mosh pits and come out much happier. The negativity that I've gone through in life personally at times, and the depths and despair that I felt at times, because, that's what when you're growing up, sometimes like that stuff happens. It caused me to create this Chord Progression podcast. So sometimes that dark positivity can be a great thing, or negative positive, whatever we called it. It was beautiful, though. I want to thank Brandon for being on the podcast, though. When it comes to Bleeding Through, go description of the podcast below. Link levels for everything are going to be there, for their social media, where you can find them online, where you can find them on tour, where you can go support them, where you can pre-save the album, where you can download it and stream it when it comes out as well. Please also remember to subscribe to the Chord Progression Podcast right down here on YouTube. You can also follow the button on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Hit the like button on these episodes to help push in the algorithm. I want to thank you for that and help support, everything we're doing. Please also make sure to follow along with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I want to thank Brandon once again for being the podcast, and that's going to be it for me. Everybody, thank you for listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single voice. Absolutely big, healthy, and hearty. See ya! Yeah.